Welcome to another episode of Cape Fear Critters. I'm Matt Colligan, and today, life on the river is what we're all about. We're going to be joined by Mr. Kemp Burdett of the Cape Fear River Watch. Howdy, Kemp.
Hey, Matt.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So, where are we headed today?
We're headed up to East Arcadia, up to Lock and Dam number 1, right on the Cape Fear River.
Very good. To Lock and Dam number 1 we go. Let's head out.
All right.
Right. Well, Kemp, we've made it up the road here about 30 miles to East Arcadia.
Yeah.
And this is Lock and Dam number 1. So does that mean there are more lock and dams on this river?
Right. There's a series of 3 locks and dams. This is the first one you get to from Wilmington. There's another one near Elizabethtown, and there's another one a little bit downstream from Fayetteville.
Okay, so above Fayetteville, so everything above that, Greensboro, Durham, High Point, that doesn't get affected until lock number 3.
Right.
Which is
And there are a few other dams even farther up. There's Buckhorn Dam up on the Cape Fear, not too far from where the Deep and the Hall come together. And there's a few Randleman Dam. There's a few other dams up there, but these 3 kind of are kind of a package deal, Lock and Dam 1, 2, and 3.
So let's talk about the human use of the Lock and Dam. What's it for? Why do we have this contraption?
Yeah. So these were built, Lock and Dam 1 was built 100 years ago, and it was built along with Lock and Dam 2 and 3 primarily to aid in the navigation of the river, moving commerce back and forth between Wilmington and Fayetteville. So the locks and dams were built to kind of, allow barge traffic to get up without having to worry about hitting low spots when there wasn't a lot of flow in the river. And so what you would see were barges being pushed by tugs that would just head into the lock chamber, water would rise, and they'd keep heading up and then do it all again on the way back down.
So it was transportation. This is a road, but on water.
Exactly.
And the name of the river, the Cape Fear, where does it get its name? The Cape
Yeah,
Fear.
so the Cape Fear gets its name from the mouth of the river where, we have really big sandbars that go all the way out to the ocean, like 30 miles out into the ocean. So even before a ship could see land, they were in danger of running aground on these shoals.
Sure.
And they could run aground, and then the waves would kind of tip the ship over and eventually destroy it. So some people, may have heard the term the graveyard of the Atlantic. Similar reason behind the name. We were kind of a scary part of the world for early explorers, and so they named the river after the Cape Fear, and that's where we got our name.
It was hard to navigate.
Right, pretty treacherous.
So other things need to navigate this water, right?
Yep.
Don't we have some wildlife? What are we looking at here? All these layers of rock. What is that?
Yeah, so this is a pretty exciting new thing on the river. This is a fish passage, and it's a fish passage. It's called a rock arch rapid, and if you could kind of get above and see this, you would see that these are arched veins of rocks that are kind of like a stairway. And so this was a project that was completed by the Corps of Engineers a couple of years ago, and the point was to allow those anadromous fish, migratory fish that spend most of their life out in the ocean, but then need to return to freshwater to spawn. This allows them to literally swim right over the dam. The dam used to be at the top of this, and it was just a straight drop, about a 12 or a 14-foot straight drop, and of course those fish wouldn't have been able to get over that. Now this allows them to gradually swim right over the top of the dam.
So this kind of rock amphitheater emulates or mimics a natural stream bed, and so they can't go up 12 feet of sheer vertical face, but you're saying maybe the fish can jump over one little pool and hang out and then kind of inch their way up the
That's exactly
wall.
what they do, and it kind of looks just like a bunch of rocks out there, but this is actually a very highly engineered and precision constructed fish passage. You know, there's cells in between each one of those stairs, and it's all laid out in a very specific way to make sure that all the species, striped bass, shad, herring, and sturgeon can all
And the alewife, right?
And the alewife.
And the alewife.
Yep.
So all those animals, they need to spawn or lay their eggs in freshwater, but the rest of their lives they're out in the ocean.
Exactly. Kind of
Very
like salmon on the West Coast.
Right.
Our fish are a little bit smarter than those West Coast salmon because they don't die when they make their trip. They turn around and go back out, and then they wait a couple of years and come back and do it again.
Oh, okay. That's interesting because they say that the salmon are a big part of what fertilizes
Right.
all that forest there. So that doesn't happen as much here.
Right. Yeah, you don't have that flow of nutrients going upriver and then staying in the river system.
Because these fish go back.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So now we're also really close by to something that touches the lives of everybody down in Wilmington, Brunswick County, and even parts of Pender County. What's going on just a few feet above this dam right here?
Yeah, so just above the fish passage, just a little bit upstream there are two intakes, drinking water intakes. The first one is operated by the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority, which supplies a good chunk of New Hanover County with drinking water. And the next one, just a few hundred feet upstream from that, is operated by the Lower Cape Fear Water and Sewer Authority. And they provide, they're a raw water wholesaler, and they provide water to a good chunk of Brunswick County and some of Pender County.
So in New Hanover County, the water that we're drinking is largely coming out of this river,
Right.
But not directly, right? They're gonna
to filter it. What they do is they pipe it, and they're gonna pipe it all the way down to Wilmington. It crosses the main stem of the Cape Fear River near Navassa, and then it crosses the northeast Cape Fear River just above the Isabel Holmes Bridge, and then it goes to the Sweeney Water Treatment Plant, and that's where they treat it. They have a very sophisticated water treatment system there, and they make sure that it's safe to drink, and then it's sent out to all of our homes and businesses.
Oh, well, I think we should follow this water all the way down to Wilmington and see if we can find out some more down that way. So
Let's do it.
This is beautiful. Thanks for bringing us up here.
Yeah.
Just lovely out here. So Kim, we've just traveled down from Lock and Dam number 1, where we saw some great work by the Army Corps of Engineers.
Right.
And now we're down here in Wilmington again. What makes this river a little unique compared to North Carolina's other river basins?
Well, the Cape Fear really is one of the most unique rivers in North Carolina. It's big. It's about 9,000 square miles, so it's the biggest in North Carolina. And right here in Wilmington, right down there, is where the Northeast Cape Fear and the Cape Fear come together. So it's two pretty different rivers. One's a Blackwater River that drains from the coastal plain, and one of them originates up in the Piedmont. So two different rivers come together. The Black River's a part of that system as well. We're tidal here, which is interesting because, like right here, we still have a lot of salt water that makes its way up from 28 miles downstream to
28
Wilmington.
miles away from the ocean, and it's still getting that influence. Wow. So
Yep.
what causes that influence?
Well, over the years, as we've deepened the river more and more and more to allow larger and larger ships to come in, as we've done things like make a Snow's Cut that connects Carolina Beach Inlet to the river, that's allowed more and more salt water to come in. So as you have a bigger and deeper river, that means when the tide comes in, it can push more and more salt water farther up.
So that changes the habitat overall then, right?
Definitely, yeah. You're starting to see, as you look out over Wilmington, maybe over there a little bit, you can see a few dead trees. As you make your way farther upstream here around like the Martin Luther King Parkway, you can see a lot of dead trees there. Those are cypress trees. And the reason they're dead is because of saltwater intrusion. They can't handle
Right, because those are freshwater tree.
Exactly.
But so things are changing as we change the river a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, this river basin, you said it was 9,000 square miles drained to this spot. So what other big cities are upstream from Wilmington?
Yeah. So all the way up at the head of the basin, you have some big cities like Greensboro, parts of Durham, little parts of Wake County, and then as you head down, you've got Fayetteville,
Sure.
on down to Elizabethtown, and then the next big town is Wilmington, of course.
So there's a lot of people in this river basin, as well as a lot of agricultural livestock.
Yeah,
right?
we've got about 20% of the state's population lives in the Cape Fear River Basin.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
Wow.
a lot of impact from human beings, and like you said, agriculture plays a big role too. We've got a lot of large-scale agriculture going on in the Cape Fear River Basin. A lot of pig farming and a lot of poultry farming, and both of those have a lot of impact on the river as well.
So, and you'd mentioned that the Northeast Cape River is a blackwater river. What does
Right.
that mean?
That means that river originates in the coastal plain. There's not a lot of topography in the coastal plain, so that river will spread out across the swamps on either bank, and so the water will kind of spread out into those swamps, and it will soak there in all of the fallen leaves from the cypress trees, the needles from the cypress trees, and the roots and stems, and it will kind of be stained this dark color that you see. It's almost like a lot of people describe it like sweet tea. So
So this is the tannins from the leaves making a nice big Cape River tea. For us.
Exactly.
But don't drink it.
don't
directly,
drink
right?
it. Don't drink it here. And then, the main stem of the Cape Fear has more sediment in it. It's coming from the Piedmont. There's a little more topography there, a little more sediment coming into the river, so it's muddier. And then they meet, and from the air you can see that line real clearly, where one comes in and it's kind of a dark black clear river, and the other one is kind of a brown muddier river, and they come
So
together.
it's like a little Neapolitan ice cream action coming
Exactly.
together there. Well, so this is a pretty dynamic area of the river. You're meeting the river, the confluences of different rivers, the Black River in the Northeast. So as far as the wildlife, the fish, what's happening right here by Wilmington?
Yeah, this is a neat place for fish because you've got a lot of different ecosystems coming together. So you've got your freshwater ecosystems where you're finding all those fish that you associate with freshwater, bass and bluegill and catfish, and you've got gar and things like that. Those fish live here. You could throw a fishing line out right now and possibly catch any of those. You can also catch species that you typically associate with saltwater here. So things like drum, our state fish.
Right.
Trout, flounder even have been caught this far up in Wilmington, around the battleship even. And so you get those saltwater species, and then you get the fish, the anadromous fish that we talked about. So striped bass, shad, herring,
Sure.
and sturgeon. Those fish can all live here, and they're kind of the link between the ocean. They live most of their life out in the ocean, and then they return to freshwater to spawn. So they kind of tie everything together, and all of those fish could be found right here in New Hanover County in the Cape Fear River.
Is there a flip side to that? Are there fish that mostly live here and then spawn out in the salt, or?
There is one species. It's a catadromous species, and it's the eel, American eel.
Oh.
They actually go out to sea to spawn and then return to freshwater to live.
Don't they have some migration journey or something?
Yeah,
that's
all the way out to
spectacular?
the Sargassum Sea
wow.
to spawn. So it's a pretty fascinating animal too, and it's thought that fish passages on the Cape Fear River would also benefit American eels.
Oh, so those eels could be all the way up in Greensboro, maybe, and come down this way
Yeah.
potentially. Wow, out to the ocean.
I've seen people catch eels right from the foot of Market Street.
What about gators or?
We have alligators. I've seen alligators right out here. There's kind of a famous alligator that used to live over near the battleship. Everybody used to call him Charlie, and you still see alligators at the battleship. Throughout Eagles Island and up both branches of the river, you see alligator. All the way up to Lock and Dam 1, people have seen. Just a couple of weeks ago, the lock master was telling me that they had an alligator in the lock chamber.
Huh.
So,
Wow. One gator in the chamber, man,
Yeah.
I tell you. Well, Kem, thank you so much for
Yeah.
spending time with us. We're going to continue to explore the river, but what a great opportunity today, seeing the Lock and Dam and exploring the river here. So
Yeah.
we're going to continue on, but thanks
Awesome.
so much.
well, enjoy the rest of your exploration.
are again in our final segment today on Cape Fear Critters, and we've gone further south, down to the very end of New Hanover County, kind of the end of the world here, where the river dumps into the ocean. And joining us is Byron Toothman with the North Carolina National Estuarine Research Reserve. And so Byron, tell us some of the things you do for your organization and how that relates to water quality at this point of the Cape Fear and Atlantic Ocean.
So a lot of what I do is to facilitate the system-wide monitoring program, and what we do is maintain 4 constant water quality monitoring stations that are always measuring water quality, and we also have a weather station that also runs continuously.
So what are some of the things the water quality buoys are looking for, the little stations? Are you measuring oxygen in the water, temperature? What other things are you looking for out here?
So we measure temperature, conductivity, and salinity, which are different ways to measure salinity. There's dissolved oxygen, there's pH, and then there's also depth. So we have a relative depth reading and we know what the water level is. And we also do turbidity, which measures how cloudy the water is.
When would you see things where the water is cloudier, for example? What kind of natural events would happen upstream, maybe as far away as Greensboro, that could cause turbidity issues down here?
So after a substantial rainfall, a lot of the runoff can carry sediments and suspended solids, and that will float down the river, and that should increase or can increase turbidity levels. And also in shallow areas on a windy day like today, you can see the waves that are created disturbing the bottom and suspending the sediments, and that also increases turbidity.
And do you see any seasonal effects of just this part of the world, like maybe higher tides this time of year, lower tides another time?
One of the seasonal effects that we see is water clarity. So the turbidity in the wintertime is often a lot lower, or the water is clearer in the wintertime than it is in the summertime. In the summer, when it's warm, there's a lot more biological activity, and that can stir up and create a lot of cloudiness in the water.
Sure. And so right behind us over here, we've got the Cape Fear River, kind of towards the end. We're standing at Battery Buchanan. This was the site of 2 Civil War battles, I believe, but we're at the very tip of the New Hanover County Peninsula. And so the water that's going right back here, this is ocean meeting the river almost, right? What are some of the animals that collide here at this juncture?
So this area here is part of the lower Cape Fear River estuary. And so the fresher waters from upstream are meeting and mixing with the saltier waters of the Atlantic Ocean. And there's a tidal influence that brings saltier water up and mixes and turns over the salt water with the fresh water. And there's also what's called a saltwater wedge. So the salt water is heavier and the fresh water is less dense and will float on the surface. And you'll see as the tide moves in, the salt water rolls in as a wedge underneath the fresh water. And so you'll see a division between things that enjoy the fresher water on the surface, and then there's critters that enjoy the saltier waters.
So you can see that difference just
by measuring the salinity.
Wow. So who might be down here in the saltwater looking up at the freshwater critter?
Well, you'll have a lot of the benthic organisms like crabs and shellfish that stay down there, and again, the tide moves up and down, and so the salinity will change, but you see that gradient move along.
And then, so what's happening over on this side of the peninsula? This is, I guess, now facing the Atlantic Ocean, right? And this is actually more where you spend your time, right?
Yes, our 2 water quality stations are in this area here, which is called Zeke's Basin. And this is a little different than the Cape Fear River, even though it's Cape Fear River water that mixes and floods this area. This is a very shallow region. It stays between 1 and 2 meters deep, depending on the tide, and some of it's exposed at low tide, so it's a lot of mud flat. And a lot of the organisms that live on mud flats will live in there.
And we're on a pretty big bird highway, aren't we? This is like major migratory route, the Atlantic Flyway. What kind of animals do you see for that down here?
So one of the interesting birds that we have here is the American oyster catcher, and we have a large percentage of that bird population there. And we'll often see oyster catchers here. We'll see rails, as you said, and various terns and gulls. And a lot of time during the summer especially, you'll see pelicans diving in the water here, catching the shallow water fish.
Nice. Well, Byron, this has been wonderful. Is there any words of wisdom that you want to share with our audience, maybe about how we can help the water quality in the Cape Fear River, including these estuaries at the mouth of the river?
One of the things that we like to express to visitors of the estuarine research reserves is to tread lightly. If you bring trash with you or items with you camping or recreating, make sure that you don't leave any trash behind.
Great. And that includes, so Masonboro Island is a property you guys
Masonboro Island, Masonboro Sound.
Masonboro Sound, and then Zeke's Island too, which is right over here.
Mhm.
Well, fantastic. And those are places, as long as we camp there and we take out what we bring in, it'll keep it cleaner.
Yes, it will.
Well, awesome. Byron, thanks so much for your time today.
Happy to be here.
Well, thanks so much. We're going to head back out there for one more look and finish up our episode of the Cape Fear Critters.
All right.
Well, thanks for joining us again on Cape Fear Critters. I hope you had a great time on this journey all the way up in East Arcadia, where we got the supply of our fresh water in New Hanover County, now all the way out to the mouth of the river as it enters into the Atlantic Ocean. This is the only river in our state that does directly empty into the Atlantic Ocean, so it's a really special place. It's also the largest of our rivers. And I hope you enjoyed all of our exploration and learning how everything that we do in our backyards and everything that we do in our environment, in our neighborhoods, affects water quality. Because remember, everything runs downhill to our lakes, rivers, and streams, and this is a river worth saving. So thanks so much for your attention, and join us again next time on Cape Fear Critters.